I was at a convention that was giving like executive coaching and stuff. And they're like 10% of your, you should spend 10% of what you make on developing yourself and such. And then I went to a marketing thing. You should put 10% of what you make towards your marketing.
Oh, at least 3% on HR.
And being the numbers person, I'm like, oh, isn't this fun?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the People Processes Podcast. I'm your host, Rhamy Alejeal. I have Michelle Scribner with us. She is the CEO of Sum of All Numbers. That is a leading financial analysis and planning company. They have a full charge bookkeeping services, and her passion is working directly with entrepreneurial business owners, helping them to achieve greater profitability and working through the ongoing challenges and stresses of running a business. I'm so happy to have her here. We have worked together over the years many times. So thank you for coming on, Michelle.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here too. Thanks for having me.
Here's what I want to figure out today. I have so many small business clients and listeners, and you are the guru of numbers. I want to be able to help them know what they should be spending on labor. Small businesses have a tendency to hire when they must, hire who they can, and figure it out. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm hoping today we could figure out the financial process, the dream. You know what you make, you know what you spend, and help them understand what they should be spending on labor, right? And when they should be hiring.
Yeah, it's the highest expense that most companies have. And the cost of training, recruiting, and maintaining and such, I mean, the turnover just can really kill a company.
I think that's a key thought. Yeah,
it is.
If someone underpays, right, or doesn't provide benefits, or some of the things that the market is demanding, or they're not. Look, if they make $1 million a year and they're not spending enough on it on labor, they may have a couple of unicorns who are doing more work than anybody they could hire, right? If they underspend, that turnover, even though it looks like, oh, my labor costs are low, that turnover, that inability to retain the talent and grow it, and the cost of recruiting and onboarding and training is going to more than eat the underpayment. That's why big companies pay a lot. They're not stupid.
No,
they're not. It's like, why do we cover family insurance? Why do we provide this 401k match? They're not doing it because they don't want to make money. They're doing it because that is cheaper than turnover, right?
Yes, it is. And I'm going to say that right now you've got a work-life balance narrative that is taking place as well. And so sometimes as a business owner, you're like, if I can milk out more from my people, then what does that lead to as well? Instead of, okay, let's not milk out as much, put a little bit of investment in it, have a little bit more spread out, and then you retain them and you get a better productivity. And we could have a whole session on that for another day, but I think it does come down to the numbers. I'm going to say it's the number one question I get asked all the time. And most of the clients that come to us initially are having a cash flow problem, or they're having a crisis of some point. And
Sure.
Whether it's they're growing and the cash isn't there, or they're ready to grow and they don't know. And so I get asked all the time, tell me when I can hire, because it is one of the highest price points on your profit and loss. When you go down everything, it's going to be more than any software subscription,
Sure.
and such. And then it's also been a moving target in the last few years as inflation has hit America, and the work-life balance thing has become more and more a topic of conversation. So if numbers is my forte, and so I'm going to make sure to not overwhelm anyone listening to numbers, because it's really hard to just have it in. But we're going to
before we do, I want to hit a couple quick things.
Sure.
So before we dive to the numbers, we're going to be talking numbers today. As common listeners know, how you do things is just important as what you do, right? So there are many other episodes, and Michelle has a great journey of her own in terms of not just paying people more, but communicating appropriately, setting expectations, putting in good performance management, creating engagement, leadership. All those things matter. But if you pay half of what you should, it doesn't. They can love you. And as you mentioned about work-life balance, we've talked many times about not just not milking people, but forcing people to stop, because your unicorns, your best people, are the ones who will kill themselves for you, right? Yes. They will work 12 hours a day for 6 months, or 60 months, and then they'll fall over.
They will.
So a lot of times those structures are the things that are actually holding them back, and it's intentional, right? It's to keep them from,
it
taking those
is.
pieces.
I had one of my employees just this week say, well, I met with them on Saturday, and I just thought, you did what? And then but she's one of my stars. And I said, I just want to thank you for going above and beyond for that client. I need to know that's never expected, and to make sure that that client knows that you went above and beyond, and it doesn't become an expectation to just, reinforce that, of not reprimand. But I think it's important as the leader of your organization to really protect those stars, because they will kill themselves to help you.
That's right. And it's hard. And we've run into this in my own company. I've been in business 15 years, where there comes a time where it's almost adversarial with your stars to make them work less.
Yes.
Right. I love working with them. It's what I want. Everybody closed at 6, but I stayed here and finished up these 45 things. And the first time they do it, you go, man, gosh, thank you. That's really sweet. That's great. And the second time you're like, just a reminder, you don't have to do that. And sometime around year 4, you're like, you got to stop. You got to stop.
I know.
And they're angry about it. I literally got in trouble with one of my directors not a month ago, because I've actually locked her account at 6:30 p.m.
Good for you.
And I'm sure 8 years.
You
may have to do
the best thing I've ever heard.
She got and she's still mad at me. She's still mad at me. I mean, so it's wild, but you have to balance it to keep those people.
You do. Okay. And your relationships with your spouses and your kids and your friends are all so critical as well for just being, anyway. We make our people, they have to take a full week off, uninterrupted, mandatory.
Nice.
Because the same thing, and depending upon the industry that you're in, for us in the bookkeeping world, it's the same thing every month. It's like the laundry. It gets dirty, you clean it, you dry it, you fold it, you put it away, it gets dirty. That's what bookkeeping is. And so, that's why we make it be a whole week, because you can't squish it or do it ahead of time, and you can't wait till afterwards, because I need them to disconnect.
That's so,
and it's for the healthiness of the company too, so that if you lose for whatever reason, if you lose someone, then your whole business isn't in a real critical, horrible place. But that's for another time.
That's right. Okay. So today we're talking about, can we use a professional services firm maybe as the example, since that's your world, or do you prefer a different one?
No, I'm comfortable with all of them. I'm going to say it really doesn't matter what industry that you're in. It really matters what I'm going to refer to as real revenue. And and I'm going to say things through a profit first light. And so does most people know profit first?
I think so. Mike Michalowicz's book, Profit First. If you ever want to check it out, message us down in the link in the bio. But of course, many of our guests have been from that world, so I think they're familiar.
So 2 things about Profit First. One is it's all based upon industry, about looking at research. What does a healthy company look like? And what are the amount that should be spent on the operations of a business versus what goes into the owner's pocket? And so really for the audience today, I'm talking to entrepreneurial businesses, but this can go in, because the research also says for your publicly traded companies, it's the same thing, that you just have stockholders instead of business owners. But most people who go into entrepreneurial business think, I am going to have my own business. I'm going to have all the time in the world. I'm going to have all the money in the world. And then real life happens. And so this is a matter of saying, let's put some guardrails around it. So the other piece about entrepreneurial business is that, what's your exit plan? Because the likelihood of you being the next Facebook where somebody buys you out for millions is kind of low, though we all dream that way. And so if you don't have a profitable company to say to the next owner, hey, whether it's your child, a friend, or somebody that you've never met before, take over this business. I'm going to show you how healthy it is. And I'm going to show you that this is the amount you can put in your pocket. Just operate it the way I've been operating it. And I have years and years of financial data to prove this to you. So it's based upon that. Yeah, go
How
ahead.
do you start with those benchmarks, right? So I know they're different in every industry. So where would I or another entrepreneur, of course they could, by the way, you guys should reach out to Some of All Numbers if you need your finances done right. It's easy. It's an easy recommend for us. We've worked together many times.
Thank you
But
for that.
yeah, that was a good one. But if they're not calling you up, how do we start with benchmarking? How do we
Yep.
figure out these ratios?
So you're going to start off by looking at how much money do you bring in on an annual basis. So in a service industry, you're going to look at whatever that amount that comes in is the amount you're looking at. But if you are a restaurant or you are a construction industry, you've got some materials or food that is just going to be what would be called the cost of goods sold in for a typical bookkeeping or for in a bookkeeping language, it's your cost of goods. There are a little bit of iffies there.
Wiggles. Yeah, some people put the labor to assemble the thing in the cogs, but in general, we're talking about materials costs.
And I want you to think of it in this sense that if you're a construction person, you cannot make your own lumber. You have to go buy it someplace else. And so, and you can't build a house unless you have the lumber. But let's just talk about this. If you are a general contractor and you sub out with a plumber, in a bookkeeping world, that is a cost of goods. And in a profit first world, that is taken out of our formula that we're going to talk about. But
that's a subcontractor. That's like an employee almost is how you view that, or labor.
But if they become an employee and now you have a plumber on site with you and you have to pay them regardless if there are toilets to put in or not, they are no longer part of cost of goods in a profit first world because you're going to have that cost regardless. So I really need everyone to be thinking, will I have that cost if COVID happens again and I have to stop? And a lot of those things you're going to still have. And so you need to think of them in terms of that has to be what I'm going to look at as my expenses versus, okay. So the whole
go
ahead.
Let me kind of restate that so I make sure I understand it. In a lot of ways, so there's your COGS, which is, you can think of that as material costs, but another way to think of that is almost variable costs.
Yes, absolutely.
So like when I get a new client, me and my HR company, we have a lot of underlying software. Some of it is a monthly subscription, $4,000. It doesn't matter how many clients I have. It is what it is. Yes. That would be an overhead expense. But maybe if I have something that charges me $2 per employee per month, and again, maybe I don't have costs, but I'm just throwing it out there. Yeah. But that $2 per employee per month, that goes up and down every month. When I have 10,000 employees, it's 20 grand. When I have 1,000, it's 2 grand. And it just floats up and down. That's an example of something that's more COGS-like because it's purely variable.
It is. And I'm going to add one more little level of scrutiny on this. And the reason I do this is because we're going to deal with dollars and we're going to deal with percentages. And so so if we eliminate the dollars, we have less percentage to work with. All right. So I'm going to, on the point of the software, if you have options to buy software someplace else in a cheaper one, then it no longer is that. Unlike when you have lumber, lumber is lumber.
That's
you have to buy lumber where you are. Great that you could buy lumber in Canada, but if you live in California, you're not going to get your lumber from Canada. You're going to get it from California, and that's what the cost is. So again, this is where this area, for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to say if you look at your profit and loss in front of you, then just look at everything in the cost of goods section and really ask yourself, do I have control over this or not? Because if you can put that in, if you have some control over that, then I'm going to challenge you to consider that for our purposes here of putting that in what my operating expenses are.
That makes sense.
All right. So now, regardless of what industry you're in, we're going to get to, in a bookkeeping world, we call that number gross profit, which is your top line revenue minus your cost of goods to get to that gross profit number. I'm going to refer to that right now as real revenue because for you, what shows as gross profit may or may not be the real revenue number. That's why I said just really scrutinize those numbers for yourself. In a service organization, that it's going to be the same. The top line is the same as the real revenue. So it really has to do with
if you were a general contractor and you're subbing out 80% of your revenue per job, it's all just going out to other companies. Really, you're just working with that 20%.
That's your real revenue. That's exactly. All right. Okay. So we're going to do a reset at that point and say this real revenue is 100%. That is my real revenue that I have to deal with. If you are a company over $1 million, then your operating expenses should only be 65%, regardless if you are a lawyer or a bookkeeper or a doctor's office, or it does not matter. What in real estate, it does not matter. Only 65% of that real revenue number should be for all of your expenses that you have.
Does that include marketing?
It does. Marketing, insurance, software, auto, everything except what gets put in your pocket as the owner.
Okay. So 35% is you're targeting a 35% margin. 65% is the world. It's employees, insurance, everything.
Yes.
So if you've built a business and you go, hey, I'm really happy, I keep 10% of every dollar that goes out, you're likely one bad summer away from not having a happy business at all, right?
Except that you haven't factored yourself in as the business owner. So I'm not looking for 35% as the bottom profit number. I'm saying 35% should go into your pocket as the owner.
One way or the other. Yeah.
Exactly. So don't think of it as that margin on the bottom. Think of it as I should be having this company should be making enough for me to pay my taxes. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you have to pay taxes, and we want you to be profitable. So you have to pay taxes. We want you to pay yourself for the work that you do.
Right.
And guess what else we want you to get paid for? Whoa.
A spilled coffee. Go ahead. I'll just scooch up a little bit. Keep rocking.
The other thing we want you to get paid for is the blood, sweat, tears of the risk that you put in for all those sleepless nights of when everyone else got paid and you didn't. That's called the profit. That's called the reward for being your own. That's the shareholder distribution that if you're a publicly held company. And those margins, for the sake of this purpose, because that's, again, for another day, that should be 35% that is broken up into those three. How much work do you do in the business? And that's the way of saying for the new owner, hey, run it this way. There'll be 35% for you to pay yourself, for you to pay your taxes, and for you to just be happy with life that you have. Because it's stressful to be a business owner. It's really nice to just go collect a paycheck from somebody else and go home and have them take all the rest of the burden on that. So now, when you start off in business, our small people, that's not enough for you to support yourself. If your business is only making $100,000 of real revenue, then you need it to be 70% that goes in your pocket. And I'm going to talk about the sense that you've got two pockets. One is what you take for yourself and what the company takes. And so if your marketing goes up, if you are only making $100,000, then your expenses should only be 30%, meaning you're the one answering the phones, you're the one posting on social media, you're the one that are cleaning the toilets, and you're the one emptying the garbage, and you're the one building your website in the beginning. And you're not hiring anyone because you need the rest of that. Unless your job is a hobby or a second job, then you really need that 70%. That's only $70,000 to pay your taxes and to support your family.
Sure.
So that's your starting point, 30% operating expenses, and your high point, 65%. And it goes between, as your revenue goes up, then that percentage goes up. So it says, when do I get to hire? So now let's say I've got 65%. How much of that needs to be people? So you can take it from the place of, what do I not have any choice on? You have to have insurances. And if you've got people, you're going to have workers' compensation and all of those things. And you could go into the labor burden of everything in the taxes and benefits. But there are other things that you have to have. Most of us have to have a website these days. Most of us have to have, whether it's a Google Suite or some internet service or a cell phone. So you can start going down all the expenses, but do most of us have to have a beautiful office with a front lobby and a restroom on site? Or can you work out of a smaller place? And you start looking at what those expenses are, because when you say, I only have this amount of money, you have choices on a lot of things. So you start off with, do I not have a choice on? And COVID was a beautiful way of saying, what do I not have choices? Because when everything shut down, you still had to pay your rent until the government stepped in and said, oh, we'll help you. But you still had to pay your utilities, and you weren't going to turn your website off. But guess what you could turn off? You could turn off your marketing, because there wasn't anything going on.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go through that and say, what would I still have to pay regardless? And that's where, and you've got that, what percentage of that? And for me, we call that our priority A. I still have to pay this regardless. So if I have 65%, what portion of that 65% are my A costs, my rent, and my, there are some softwares that if you turn it off, you've lost
you lose it
all your data.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that your bookkeeping, and I hate to say this, but your bookkeeping is not an A. Hey, it's really nice to have bookkeeping and it's really helpful, but you can still operate without bookkeeping. In fact, that's why I have a business, is because people don't do bookkeeping. And then they are like, oh, it's time for me to do that. You also
could go back to a year and fix all that.
That's exactly right. So it's not an A. You can say, hey, I'm sorry, I have to let you go for right now because I don't have the money for it. The other thing about it is QuickBooks Online, you can turn it off and you can come back and turn it back on, and all of your data is there, even 4 years later. Now nothing's been updated, but you didn't lose it. And there is no time or energy or cost to reinstate it, unlike other software. So really look at those pieces to say, is it truly a category A? I have to pay that. Now you get and say,
insurance is a great example. You're not turning that off. There's no such, you don't want to lapse that, right? Even if you don't have much work going on, you're not going to have a break in your general liability.
No,
no one will insure you.
You know what else is your licensing. If you are a nurse or if you are a real estate person, you have to pay those. It's who is going to come and put a lock on your door. So anything government regulations, that's another thing that is a priority. It has to be. And sometimes your location and your rent. So that gets you now, if I only have 65%, what's that portion? Now we have the rest of it. And I'm going to say, though I don't want to use the word discretionary, it's like, where do I want that money to go? Because you get to choose as the business owner, and you get to choose whether you need a virtual assistant or whether you type your own notes and answer your own phone. So you start looking at that and saying, all right, what do I need most? And usually people are at the time. So if you look at when do we usually hire, it's usually in that 250 to 500,000 range. And right around $500,000, it's like, there's too much work for me to do myself. So if you think the $250 to $500,000 range is 40% of what you make should go to your operating expenses.
Okay. 500,000 we've moved from that 30 to
$500,000 to $1 million goes up to 50%. Now, do quick math. 50% of 500,000 is 250, but 50% of 999,000 is 500,000. So you're dealing with percentages, and that lets you see, when can I hire? So now that we've eliminated where the money has to go, now you have the rest, and where do I want this to go? So we're in a stage of saying, I believe in AI and software and efficiencies, but we will cease to exist if we are not people. Sure. And humans are not going away as much as they're not. And so when you invest in people, then you truly can build the kind of company that has a relationship with your clients that you may want it to have. So now you can start identifying, how many dollars do I have and what is it going to take? Now, what happens all the time is, but if I hire them, I'll make more money.
If I hire them, I'll make more money.
Yeah, the company will make more money if I hire another person. Every entrepreneur believes that. They're going to free me up and I'm going to make more money. Okay, that's great, but what if that doesn't happen? Right?
Right.
So that's why I get asked all the time, when can I hire? So
when you can tolerate a failure.
Yeah.
Is that the answer? Did I
almost
cut to the end?
And so the way I do it is say, all right, I want you to put away 2 months of that person's salary in a reserve, because you and I both know that it takes about 2 months before someone gets up to speed. And sometimes it's 3 months. And so if you already have that money socked away and it might take you a little while to get there, then you're like, all right, now I'm going to hire you. I know I've got 2 months worth of your salary. That gives us 2 months to get this revenue where I need it to be. And I'm going to train you boom, boom, boom. This is what I need to do. We're going to watch the metrics here. If I don't see that, I've got 2 months and I need to let you go.
Wow.
But maybe 2 months is too short. You're going to have to look at
no. Yeah. Every industry is different. But so that's very interesting. So let me
dive down into
that
that.
up. Yeah.
Sure.
So, bookkeeping and accounting there's projections, but a large part of it is retroactive, right? So what I was expecting was, when your revenue's at 500, you have this sort of, you're looking at this thing, you have 250,000 in potential to spend, you need to keep 250, 100 of that's socked away, now you got 150, and so we're kind of going to use this ratio. Sure. I think that's right. But I think the better way, and maybe at scale that makes sense, but for that first question, when can I hire? You're exactly right. It is a investment. And the answer there is prove you can sock away enough and make sure that your investment timeline, 2 months salary, 3 months salary, whatever it is, you're able to judge its success, right? So for this first hire, this core hire, and if you guys listen to some of our other episodes, I've talked about who to hire first. I have a lot of opinions on that.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be terrible at it. I think you're probably going to fail at it. I think we're probably going to fail at it. Hiring your first employees like as hard as doing your first project, right? You don't know what you're doing, and you don't know what good looks like even yet.
Right.
So under this scenario, make sure your business can save up enough. And if you're going to reach for it, you're going to put your labor ahead of your revenue because you think your labor is going to generate more revenue. The answer is sock away enough salary time that you can get there and have a key piece on that. I'm thinking about a small client of mine that we talked just a few weeks ago, and I didn't give him this advice. I said, grow until you can afford it. But he's like, I really need this person to grow. Yeah. And I'm a conservative, like, well, you don't. You just got to work harder, dude. Like, go bang some doors and work some overtime. Make the money. But this is a great option, which is sock the money away and see the company grow to that in advance. I really like that.
And it doesn't have to be like for us, we've got a 3-month up cycle. I know that we've been in business long enough that I know it takes 3 months before someone is truly efficient in the job piece. And so that's where my projections go to is like, I need to have 3-month salary there. And then the more experience that you've got in this, you can see like, hey, this is a benchmark. Gosh, they aren't quite there yet. Do you need to invest some more training with them? Do you need to give them more? And then I'm blown out of the water with some people that after 4 weeks, they're like up and running. And I'm like, wow. Yeah, but it really is. I mean, you can do a lot to make the best decision. Depending upon, it used to be where we could take a month or two in order to find the right person. And then the market shifted and I had to make a decision within the same week of interviewing because I was going to lose those best people. And so, or they have to give 2 weeks notice someplace else or whatever else. So you've really got to gauge how the market is, and it's changed so much in the last.
And every industry is different. And yes. Yeah. And of course, if you guys need help with understanding hiring stages, recruiting, hiring design, job advertisements, job design, that's of course the people processes world, and we're more than happy to help. But even when you do everything right, from the HR perspective, I guess one thing I think about a lot is it happens in small business primarily. When you're hiring your first couple, and I don't know if maybe this was the case in your business, you probably paid less your first few years in business than you do now. Am I guessing right? It's forget about inflation.
We're in California, so that tells you a lot right there. Yeah. Yes.
So, but when you're first starting, you flail about until you get lucky and hire the right person, and they come in, and then that person is really like a keystone of your business, and over time it grows, and you wind up getting more systematic and you have more expertise. But I've often found when I go into some of these smaller businesses, they don't necessarily make as much revenue per head as a larger company. They're not. No. Either they're not charging appropriately, or their skill isn't there, or whatever it is. But they're not. Apple makes like $1.2 million per every person they hire. It's just it's just like
crazy.
$500,000 of profit per employee. Of course, they're
Amazing.
one of the most profitable companies in the world, but it's like
But
I'm
they
not at
didn't
1.2
start
million.
that way. And it
No.
would be really fun to see their financials in the first 10 years.
Oh, it was all negative. It was all zeros. It was just bad.
Uh-huh.
But so these small businesses, you don't make as much money per employee as a more established one. You are going to try to maintain these financial ratios so that you, as a business owner, can weather any bad storms.
Mm-hmm.
It's very good to work for a profitable business, not a non-profitable, like one that doesn't make any money is a lot harder to work for.
Yes.
So you align your incentives with your employees that way. And then you've got a couple of people under your belt. What happens when you kind of look at it and realize, look, I've got the 4 that work, but I got to get to 10 now.
Sure.
And how often do you see that requires a pretty severe adjustment in that?
It does, especially when you've got a unique offering that you're like, oh my goodness, we've hit it. We've found our top clients. We know exactly what we're doing, and there really is, and there's going to be rapid growth. And so we want to expand to the rapid growth, but we've all seen companies that grow too fast. And so that's a whole topic for another day as well, because if you don't have systems in place, you grow and then it just falls apart.
Absolutely.
So I look at that, and I'm going to go back to the analogy of you have 2 pockets. You have a pocket that is the company is paying for it. So when you hire an employee, you want the company paying for it, but your other pocket is yours. And all the time I have entrepreneurs say, I'm willing to give myself less because it's going to get me more later. And I'm like, that's great. So the profit first mechanics are you have 2 different bank accounts. And when behaviorally, you have to withdraw out of an account that says owner to pay the employee, then you're like, oh, that was $4,000 that said owner.
I could
Now
have
it
that.
could still be the money could still be in under the umbrella of the company, but the actual bank account was labeled owner, and you just took $4,000 out of it. Because what happens there is you say, we got to work a little bit harder. When you have one bank account that's just everything. So if you take and put 65% over here and say, these are my operating costs, and I'm going to say the bigger you get, then big accounts are easy these days. So make one that's called all my overhead. This is my people. These are my fixed, my A amount, and take that 65% and siphon it off into one. And this is my future. And then you have this one called owner. So when you've bled out all of these and it's having to come out of that other pocket, something happens. And you say, what's not working? And it's a short leash as a business owner to say, okay, regroup. And sometimes the regroup is, oh no, this is worth every penny we're going, because you can feel it. And other ones, it's like, okay, we're going to meet once a week and we're just going to go over how you're doing, and great. And the next one is like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There went my vacation. I could do that job and not have anything in my business.
That's a 30-minute a week job, and why am I paying some?
It becomes a behavior. And that's the piece, is that if you as a business owner can recognize what your behavior, because I'm going to say that entrepreneurials are serial optimists. They just are all going to work, and there's going to be enough.
Oh, we sell our business all day, including to ourselves. If we knew how hard it would be, we would never do this.
Why would we jump off a cliff if we didn't think we could fly?
That's right.
That is just what it is. And so put some guardrails around yourself. And sometimes it is, when am I going to hit the ground instead of flying? And when you've got those pieces there to say, okay, well, I had this amount set for my people and I had to dip into my marketing budget. And the same thing, everyone asks me too, how much can I have for marketing? And I'm like, great, let's dive down. Where's your priorities? And you can have that, but you're going to have to take it out of your pocket that's meant for you.
Is there some magic guide? So I remember this was, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that, when I was first getting into payroll. And what I did was I went and looked up like ADP and Paychex's public financials. By the way, ADP keeps 46 cents of every dollar they charge. I was like, okay, I'm getting into this business.
Yes.
Of course, they also have like 125,000 employees and are a Fortune 8. Turns out I don't keep that much. But it was interesting. But is there... let's say I'm an accounting firm. Here I am. I'm a new accounting firm. I've got 4 employees. We're kind of established. I've grown by BNI networking, and I've got a website, and I do social media, but it's not like anybody's just picked up the phone and been like, "Hey, I saw you online. Here I am, and I love your accounting." That's not a common thing yet. Where do you go to get benchmarks, or is there just nothing like that you could go and say, "Oh, well, accounting firms, they always spend around 13% on direct marketing," or is there no magic number like that?
Um, and, and I love this question because I was at a convention that was giving like executive coaching and stuff. And they're like 10% of your, you should spend 10% of what you make on developing yourself and such. And then I went to a marketing thing. You should put 10% of what you make towards your marketing.
Oh, at least 3% on HR.
And being the numbers person, I'm like, oh, isn't this fun? Because whoever is pitching it is going to say what the benchmark is. I'm going to go back to behaviors. You know what you are good at and you know what you're not good at. And so immediately I know what I'm not good at, and guess where my money goes?
There you go.
To pay for the things I'm not good at. And
you
know what
I'm not doing.
And marketing is like gambling for me. It's like throwing money away and saying, did that give me a return? And so for us, my marketing is I've got a 3-month leeway on it. That's what I can invest in it. And I can try a little bit here and a little bit there. Oh, that's where it goes. That's where all of our money is going to go. Because again, now for, I've got clients that they believe so heavily in the executive coaching, and I've gone into there and I was like, you're bleeding your company and you're going to, so let's give yourself a budget, but budget's a bad word. So it's like, let's give yourself its own bank account. Whatever you make, put 1% there. So I'm going to say that the magic of this is tapping into your behaviors as a business owner, and to say, now I cannot grow in a lot of areas unless I have people.
Sure.
There are other companies where you can grow in other ways without the people. So if you are like, I need people, then you need to put in a percentage there and start looking at that and looking at in those smaller chunks and saying, there we go. But really look at it, because it's going to come down to your values. So it's the same thing that, what do you do for a Christmas party? Some companies are like,
that's like,
they spend thousands of dollars, but it goes back to their core values, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We recognize this. Some other ones are like, no, I value security. I've got one guy, he's in Texas, and he just has brought, they do foundation repair, digging things. He's like, I'm putting, all of these guys are Hispanic, their background, and I want to teach them about 401ks because they've never had a far-reaching view. He's like, I want to change their lives. No foundation repair company needs to offer a 401k, but his value, I know, but they don't, because that's not,
right. I love them. Right, because you're bringing in unskilled labor, and
like you're going to still find labor without a 401k. You just are, if you're in that business.
Very true.
But right, whereas in a marketing company, if you don't have it, or in mine, if you don't have it, they're going to go someplace else, because that's just what you're attracting, or the people that you need. So going back to this, his value was, no, I am going to invest in them. When it's raining outside, instead of saying you don't have to work today, he brings them in the shop and does training, and he pays them anyway. Very, very different. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. You can be a successful company, but it goes down to what your values. And that's where that Christmas party comes in, and all of these other, you can
decisions.
Still compete. You can still compete in that and still attract employees. But when your values come into it, then you're going to say, I'm going to put more money there, or vice versa. I don't value that. We're not going to.
Let me take it systematically. So from the beginning, we're going to have a profit, and we call it profit, but it's owner's compensation, including taxes and all the shit you shouldn't have in your company books, all that stuff. Exactly. Right, we're gonna put that all together, right? Yeah. Like that's my company car that I don't really need anyway.
Yes,
profit, and we're gonna set a number, and that number is gonna be as much as 70% for a very, very small business, 35% at $1 million. I would bet at 20 million, maybe the numbers are even a little bit smaller. Maybe it's not 35% anymore.
No, the interesting thing is it's not.
35 is the hard floor. I agree, actually. I'm a big fan of that
35%
idea. I'd love,
is the hard
as someone
floor.
much larger than $1 million, I would love 35%.
Yeah.
Okay. So you set that number.
Yeah.
Then you have the rest of your buckets. And one of those buckets is, and this is kind of the thing I want to run by you. You got the labor bucket, you got the marketing bucket, you got the overhead bucket. And you broke overhead into Class A and Class B and some of those things. So you got some buckets. The numbers or the percentages in those buckets are a reflection of your values. Yeah. I overpay for insurance. I've been in insurance since I was 13 years old. I overpay for it because I've seen what a deal gets you, and it doesn't work well for me. I never had an insurance claim relative to a lot of the stuff I buy, but I've sold discount insurance and I didn't like it.
That is so interesting. Yeah.
Right? So your values will change the percentages of that bucket of, say, 65%. Yeah. You may have a heavy labor business. You may have a heavy marketing business. If you're in SaaS, software as a service, your labor costs are relatively low, but your cost of acquisition maybe 30 or 40%.
That's absolutely correct.
So those are your prior values. Yes. Here's the systematic thing I want to run by you to bring in that we kind of touched on. When you're looking at the 35% and the 65%, the 65 is based on your current revenue.
Yes.
And there are times where to grow, you may have to spend more.
Yes.
You may choose to spend more.
Yes.
So here I am, my business makes about $5 million a year. I've got $1.5 million in profit and everything's running fine, but I'm looking ahead and I'm going, damn, I need to spend another $500K on marketing. Mm-hmm. Or to make my wife happier with me, I sure could use an assistant. And it would be really good if we had an account manager because that's about half my job. And suddenly it's worth, but I don't have the money. But I will have the money if I spend it, right? Mm-hmm. Your argument is put it in the profit account, run your thing, and then take $100,000 or whatever the amount is and take it out of profit and move it back in as an investment. Just like you said, you know what, I'd rather buy Tesla stock. I don't want to invest more in my company. I want to buy some Tesla or Microsoft.
That's exactly right.
Instead, you're moving it into your company as a standalone investment. Mm-hmm. And if you weren't willing to put that $100,000 in, you're out of your pocket. You could have used it to buy a boat. You could have used it to take your family on vacation. You could have used it to buy VTI broad index funds. You instead are choosing to put it in your business, and you look at it as a standalone investment with some target of return and time and everything else. I'm going to hire you. This is going to get us forward 6 months. In 6 months, I better have made my money back. The percentages better have grown to put you in the... So would you, this is an idea, would you ever put in place a system where you have... I remember this from finance world. Vested versus unvested employees. Go into labor. Like, you need another accountant, right? You've got your 35 that are rocking it. That's based on your current revenue. And you're like, all right, I'm going to hire 2 more. And they're going to make me money. And they got 6 months to make me that money so that my 65% covers them. Otherwise, they were a bad fit. Yeah. And like those two, I'm thinking about the HR perspective. Sure. I want to put a U next to them on their name. Like, oh, no, these are unvested employees. They haven't covered their butt yet. Have you seen anything like that?
That's a good way of looking at it. A lot of people say, I'm going to go get a loan. They say, I'm going to go get a loan. Now, everyone has a different feeling about debt, and this goes to behaviors as well. And so you can go in and say, well, what is my loan payment going to be? And do I have that much in my operating expense? Now, that is a very liberal approach to that because that is going to be there. And if you can make the payment, that's great. But you know what happens? The payments last for 5 or 10 years. They are a very, very long time. And so it might feel wonderful right now, but you have to say like this, you have to think, what is it doing for me right now? How am I going to feel about it at at a year mark? And how am I going to feel about this in 10 years? Because really, if you do not address debt in that way, so it's very nice to look at it and say, if I invest it in my own money, a little bit more cautious, aren't you, than just taking out the loan? Especially when it's a government loan that seems so easy to get and has a low interest rate and such, that is not backed by any asset, very different than if you're going to buy a piece of real estate and rent it out and have a return on it. But that debt, when you're looking at your operating expenses, those debt payments better be part of that 65%. Where else is it coming from?
That's right.
So I know you have to think about it that way. If I don't have it in my 65, what pocket is that debt coming out of? So would you go take out $100,000 if you knew I had to pay for it out of my pocket instead of out of my company? So go back to that. Where's my behavior on it? And you have a lot of people that are like, debt doesn't scare them, and others that they will run away like just fine.
But there's probably a healthy medium somewhere in between there.
Is,
but I'm of the anti-debt. I've never took, but a lot of my most successful clients do.
And the thing is, recognize it, acknowledge it, and own it as a business owner, and then go put guardrails around it. This is for my investment, because when we look at that and say invest in the company, then those that have no fear of debt are like, oh, I'll go take out $1 million loan because I'll be sure to, you know what that's going to, do you realize how much money that is to pay back?
Yeah.
It takes a very long time, and it can shackle you. And so, but the people that are not afraid of debt, they jump without thinking about, think about that 65% that we go back to all the time. Do you have $83,000 a year to just put, that would be the interest at 10%?
Alone, right.
Alone, right? So again, looking at that,
That's true.
So I look at the people part of it and the hiring, and this is the other piece, is that whatever company, wherever you are, when you bring a person on and you are bringing them on as an employee, I am surprised at how many business owners don't understand that it's not just $20 an hour, but it's $22.82 an hour is what it costs the company.
At least. Yeah.
And so that's, when I do those calculations and helping someone to say, when can you hire and how much money do you have, that labor burden, because for my labor burden is close to 25%.
Oh, yeah. So national average is 31.
Is it really?
Right? It is. Well, and it all depends on what you include in there. So speaking of labor burden, here's some good numbers for you guys, right? So there's, of course, your required benefits, government required benefits. That's your Social Security and Medicare contributions. That's your state unemployment contributions, and that's your workers' comp. Okay. That alone is normally around 8.5% to 9%. Okay. A lot of people use 10 as the shorthand on that. It depends on your industry. If you're an accountant, your workers' comp's not very high. If you're a construction business, it's 3 cents. It's 30% of every dollar you pay. I mean, it can get wild.
Wild. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you have to look at that. But that's your required benefits. Then you have to think about leave. And a lot of people leave out of their calculation. I don't know if you were thinking about that when you said 25%.
No, I didn't.
If you give 4 weeks of vacation, sick leave, and holiday, 4 weeks sounds like a lot, but that's only, 7 holidays, 10 days of vacation, 5 days of sick. It's like, that's 23 days. That's like 10% of your year.
Right.
Then you throw on insurance benefits, 401ks, retirement benefits. And yeah, it's very common to spend 30% more than what your bottom line payment is on there.
Which is so critical of when you're thinking, when can I hire and expand? For most of us, like for us, if we lose a client, I'm not going to let somebody go. But at some point, if you lose enough clients, like you're going to absorb it. And that's the other part of your saying, because it's really that cost. I can't just let someone go and then bring them back. It used to be where I could bring someone on, say, I'm going to pay you for $10 a week or 10 hours a week. Now I can make you up to 20 hours a week. Now I can make you to 30. Those days are gone for me. That doesn't exist anymore for my industry. But again, but nobody it's rare when you find an individual that's like, oh, it's okay if you reduce my hours, I'll be fine. Right. Most people start living at what they're bringing in. And so again, understanding that labor burden and having some real way of watching it and saying, do I have enough wiggle room? Because at some point, like you get to a place where it's like, okay, I'm going to have some of it come out of my pocket. It's okay. You have dips, and I know this is how it is. That's the journey of an entrepreneurial business.
We take the risk. That's why we're in it. We're in the risk and ups and downs.
But if you know, like let's take full service businesses. they know that they're going to have 3 months with no revenue when it's winter time and it's snowing and there isn't anything there. So at that point, they are putting that 65%. It has to be an average of the whole year, and they're sucking that money away into a
Sure.
reserve there. So if you are a company that is volatile in the amount of revenue and that one client can really make it, then you've got to be thinking that way and saying, if I lost this client, I couldn't let somebody go because I still need them, but it would hurt. What is that number? And
That
we're really
reserve number.
getting into the weeds right now. But if you're looking at peace of mind, because this isn't about being wealthy and about like living the high life, it is about a peace of mind and peace for you as an individual who runs a company. And so for some, it's like, okay, I want to have this much reserve. I've got one company, they constantly are saying, how much is in my payroll reserve? How many months is that? 2.4, 1.86. They always know, I mean, down to that granular level. And they have it, they're like, I will sleep at night when it is at 2.82. That's their number. Okay.
Well, and by the way, if you guys are listening, go check out our prior episode on self-insuring for catastrophe. Some amazing tax advantages on those 531.
That is fantastic.
Pieces. Really cool setup. Check it out. A couple other items that this kind of just triggered right towards the end there. When you're thinking about your financial labor ratios, especially in something like a pool business or construction business where it's very seasonal, you have that. One of our larger clients, we have quite a few in the schools and academic world, right? People work 10 months, they get paid for 12.
Yes.
If you're working with a great HR company or a great bookkeeping company, we can do things like accrue. So we actually have a separate memo line accrual inside payroll where we're accruing those expenses throughout the year that you make revenue. People work. I got to get a new chair.
Yes,
I
you
don't know
do.
what's happened. This has cost me a coffee thing, and like the hook is
real
not
good
working.
shirt.
But you can accrue those expenses.
Yes.
So that also that's very helpful because in some highly regulated industries like formal education from government, if someone quits 6 months in, they're actually owed half their summer pay.
Yes.
So all of that is technological or expertise that you can bring in if it's something you're working on. But I know we have some seasonal businesses that actually do that. They actually plan and talk to their guys about a reserve fund, right? Like, this is how we're going to do it.
And honestly, the reason why what is so critical is cash flow is the number one reason why businesses have to close their doors. It is. And so if you can master your cash flow and not get yourself in a situation where you're going to very much stress and have to close your doors, and all of these tactics that we put into talked about today are going to protect you from that event happening, which then equals a great peace of mind beyond.
Absolutely.
So,
Michelle, thank you so much for being on today. For those of you listening, if you want the financial expertise and the depth of knowledge and systems with I have a lot of people who hire one-off bookkeepers or one-off CPAs, and their CPA does this on the side. And when you get bigger, you realize that's just silly. But I will just say that the continuity of these things is so important. And you need an organization like Sum of All Numbers or another really well-respected organization that when she screws up and one of her employees quits, that doesn't mean your books get screwed up, right? You need to look at hiring a reliable, continuous company when it comes to your finances. You can't be at the mercy of them getting sick and you not getting your finances. So over the years of working with Sum of All Numbers, I've been incredibly impressed with their ability to weather the storms. There's a lot of companies out there that do your books just fine when everything's going just fine. But as soon as something screws up for them, you're 6 months behind. So talk to Sum of All Numbers. You can reach them out at sumofallnumbers.com. Of course, we'll have links below for your Instagram, Facebook, those sorts of things, your LinkedIn. And feel free to comment down below if you found any of this stupid. I know there are people who hate profit first. And I know there are people who actually strongly disagree with me and you probably on how we structure this debt and a 35% ratio. And I got clients that are venture funded. They start with $6 million and their job, all they care about is extending the runway.
There you
Fight
go.
us. Bring it to me. I want to hear it. Okay? Michelle, thank you for your time. If it can ever be of service to you, let us know. Thank you. And we will see you soon.
you.